It's time. We've been waiting, we've been scheming, we've been being patient, and it's time. It's the introduction of season two of the Specificity podcast. So, welcome to our past listeners and current listeners. Welcome. Spell it SPECIFICITY, where we ask specific questions about specific topics, getting specific answers. Me, Amari, what's going on? What's going on? I mean, this episode is catching us back up. Communicating back with each other and letting you know what's been going on, what you can expect from us, um, and just some inner workings, so you know what to expect. Within a week or two, I plan on having another episode where I bring on people or podcast platforms I collaborated with, as well as previous guests from season one, and we're gonna come together and share some, constructive criticism. How can we be better? What we need to do again and replicate, as well as guests they would like to see and certain topics they feel that I either omitted, didn't cover, or need to cover things they would like to see me address. So I'm excited for that one. I think that's gonna be a great conversation with great people, and we just talk about some of the issues we see need to be addressed, and we get down to it. So what's going on with me? Relationship with the higher power. I have a bullet point. We're gonna keep this short and sweet. It won't be too long. Um, I mean, relationship with the higher power. I think it's incredible. I think it could be a lot better. How though? Um, More intentional conversation, finding some more healthy coping skills. Like, for instance, right now I write my issues down on a piece of paper, and I talk about them third person. Now what I need to do is involve my significant other with that. Is we do that together. So now what I'm aiming to do is to find coping skills that I can do with other people, because it's, in my opinion, too easy to go in isolation and solitude with your coping skills, be alone with your coping skills. What skills do you have that involve other people, or that other people can contribute to, and that you can contribute to them? So find a team coping skills for my significant other and I, as well as my children. Relationship with my family. Um, I could be a lot more present, while at the same time I could be doing a lot worse than I am. Still holding myself accountable and being intentional, um, and continue to be consistent. Continue to communicate and to be present and be intentional, and to have these types of conversations with the inner workings of my circle. The career. I feel blessed to do what I love to do and to be able to support my family. Yeah, I could be making a lot more money, a lot more exposure, more sales, while at the same time, we have everything we need right now, and we're maintaining. So I make sure that I keep that in mind and stay grateful for what I do have, because I could have a lot less. Well, I could have a lot more. So just keeping that balance and being um, content, being happy, being excited for what I do have, for what I am maintaining, while knowing that a few tweaks could lead in a better direction or in a more regressive direction. Pass First Entertainment company, the films, books, music. The merchandise line is up. OMARIAA shop.com. You can go through the main website to get there too, through the store link, OMARIAA.com. Um, just getting more skilled. Within the month, the book will be done, the soundtrack will be done, the film should be done. And I use those words intentionally. And so it's just, I mean, for those who don't know, essentially I wanted to leave behind a will. How people do the recordings of the will and their last words and sentiments. Well, I wanted to leave something like that for my children, in a more creative way. In the vision of a book that's the philosophical poetry, and then the film, which is showing interactions and intentions, um, and how we coexist with each other and treat each other when we do have versus when we don't have, and how we treat each other when it comes to um, healthy relationships and toxic relationships and success. And so I'm excited for that one as well. And the soundtrack is essentially small excerpts of the book, a little bit of the film, and I interwove it into the album. And so I'm excited for all of it to come. And again, if I make $1 million off it, me and my collaborators, that's fantastic. If I make $0 off it, that's fantastic too, because I'm doing what I love and I'm happy doing it. Now the money aspect, I've invested in it, um, and that's okay. I might not see the dividends, but we have the copyright, we have the master, and so my kids' might see the dividends. And so it's just about having investments. Yeah, I could get a Roth IRA, which is a investment account to where it's long term and it's higher percentage. So if I leave it in there for a while, it'll accrue higher interest. But if I take it, I might as well just take it all because I'm gonna burn myself by doing so. And so it's just different. It's being intentional. It's a lot of different ways to be successful. A lot of different ways to get equity off things. Is what do you love to do? The criminal law, the criminal law office right now, which I'm a paralegal at. I love what I do. I love what even I and here's the interesting thing as you listen to even the content that I make, I interweave the things I've learned through my education into the content. And so you might be listening, like for instance, if you one of the upcoming mixtapes I'm gonna put out is called "In the Meantime." I talk about forensic science. I talk about, and this is me paraphrasing. I say that they have the scene and the tread marks you left it, and it said lands and grooves. They have it. Well, lands and grooves are the indentions that are on a bullet from the chamber of the gun. It's striations as well. So from that bullet, based on the lands and grooves or the characteristic in the markings, they can trace that bullet to a gun, saying because of the indentions from on the bullet, it's linked directly to this gun. And they'll recreate it, of course, to prove their hypothesis. So it's just little minute things like that. And I even say in that same track, I say this is not civil trial. This is not the preponderance of evidence. This is beyond a reasonable doubt, and that's the burden of proof. In the civil trial, the burden of proof, or what the prosecutor has to prove, is a preponderance of evidence. In a criminal law trial, the burden of proof, which is again on the prosecution, and this is why they sit closest to the jury because they have more responsibility. The prosecution has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, and so it's just little minute gems that I like to leave behind and interweave in my content that speaks to my intentionality. Let's talk about the next thing. Peace first. That is the vocational nonprofit. I'm close. I'm about a year and a half, a year out, maybe even closer, depending on my time management and discipline within myself, on having a correctional course where we will go into an adult male prison and teach a course. And so it's just beautiful things like that lets me know that I'm doing everything I'm supposed to, while at the same time I could be a lot better, a lot more intentional. I could be a lot more creative and more disciplined with my time and my resources. I could watch this 30-minute video, or I can put 30 minutes into a book. I could put 30 minutes into the correctional class, 30 minutes into the next project. And so it's just about being intentional. What do I want to do with this 30 minutes? And, how's it going to benefit me and my family in the long run? The Black Excellence Gallery, you can find that on, and all these you can find on www.omariaa.com. The Black Excellence Gallery, that's my spirit, that's my intentions, that's the representation for 99% of the things I'm making, is that to where all ethnicities are within that gallery somewhere. The focal point is the African American community, the Black community, in a progressive and positive and uplifting light that shows possibilities, and it's really reprogramming us on what the vision of to be Black and African American. What does that mean? What does that look like? The culture and media has propaganda, which is information, intentional information that portrays a certain image and a certain intention on it. Um, and so my intention was to bring in children, parents, grandparents, and great grandparents all together by looking at this, for them to sit down maybe once a week, once a month, once every 2 3 months, and they talk about it. They scroll through and they look at it, especially the children, and they because you can tell them a million things, but they really want to see, they really want to watch, and this is why I even transitions to this new format to give people a little more insight on the speaker as well as the speakers that come in and talk with us. And so being more intentional, being getting behind the camera, as uncomfortable as it makes me, I just pretend like it's not there and just stay true to my spirit and to my intentions. And here we are, the Specificity Podcast. I mean, we're here, we're back, season two. I took some time off to focus on some endeavors to strengthen my relationship with the creator, the higher power, my family, and to just take a deep breath and to see, is this something that I really want to do? Is this something that I really want to invest time, energy, and resources toward? And my answer was a resounding yes, because this content is something that I would want my kids and children of the community to listen to. That's who it's really geared toward. Then it's the young adults, young entrepreneurs, because I think they'll be more receptive to it and more open minded to it. I'm not saying people older would completely reject it. The younger generations, I'm finding that's the future, and to invest more in them. And if you get the children and the young adults behind it, then the older generation has no choice but to follow. They'll get with the program if the children are really standing on it. So be intentional with that. Um, some of the some of the topics that we're going to talk about, and one of the ones I'm interested in actually is, well, we already talked about the past platforms, podcast platforms I went on during the break, and the guest from last season. That's going to be an episode where we get together and have a conversation about how we can be better, intentionality within the community, and just have open dialogue and intentional conversation. The generational shift is another topic. A wife before a mother, and I'm gonna actually have my wife on here, and we're gonna talk about our decision to get married before having kids, and kind of what went into that, what went into my intentionality when I asked her and proposed to her, and I asked her to be my wife, like we're talking now. So I asked her, "Do you want to be my wife?" And she said yes. And why she agreed, and what did she see for us in the future, and why she felt that it was important, because she could have said no, she didn't. And take a deeper thought into that thought process, into why. Military opportunities, single parent households, the parent versus the child perspective. And I'm actually have my mother on for that one. And we're going to talk about some of our experiences and the thought process that goes behind, because a lot of times we see one or the other, in movies, conversations, excuse me. We rarely get both on the same platform at the same time. Talk about the type of things that went into why, we did some of the things we did, me and her. And so I think it'd be incredible and incredibly therapeutic for everybody who came from similar backgrounds. Risk management, financial literacy, the pros and cons of law school. My intention is to have the Save Our Youth Midnight Basketball here in Oklahoma City, the importance of a HBCU, um, and other things. Oh, one of the ones I will tell you, I'm gonna save the other ones for later. The relationships between the criminal justice, like policemen, and the black community. I'm gonna have some officers on for that one, and I want to have that conversation. How do we, one, rebuild trust, and then two, how do we build it and invest toward it and be intentional with it? Is it community events where they come out and have a meet and greet? Is it where they um, come up and talk to people? Like, what exactly needs to happen? And this is not something that's fast. There's no quick fix to anything. And if there is, then I'm skeptical of it. What's the investment, intentional investment we can make toward each other to make our communities more safe, to make our communities more intentional, to where it's not, we're not combating with each other, where they not only have to worry about people who are breaking the law and doing their job, they have to worry about us and us not helping them and almost impeding the progression of their job because they have families to take care of. And so it's just being intentional with conversation and being honest. The homicide hotline, that's honestly something I came up with sporadically. I had a partner of mine, and he talked about how they have a hotline for mental health, hotline for suicide, a runaway hotline, and various others. They don't have one for somebody who wants to gun somebody down or who wants to take a life in addition to their own. And so I said I could wait for somebody else to do it, or I can just do it myself. And so what I did was I just got a Google number off Google, connected to my phone, and I'm a resource for people to call. And that number is 405-254-6557. And we're just having a conversation like we have now. Um, I'm learning my goal isn't to save the world. Is my goal is to be the example and have somebody else take my example and do better. And this is why I decided to make music too, because I can lecture. Essentially, that's how people see it. I can lecture, and people are gonna take it a certain way. I could go to speeches, community events, and seminars, people taking a certain way. But if I put this information over a beat that's bumping, all of a sudden it resonates differently. If I put it within a film, it resonates differently. If I put it in a book through poetry, it resonates differently. And here's a curveball I'm gonna throw for the future. Trap House is a vocational board game that it's I'm even looking at the board now. It's extremely close to being done. All that is conflict resolution, financial literacy, reading comprehension, uh, how to invest, essentially. So career development, business strategies, and lumped into one. So it's the very thing that I'm doing combined, just put into a different context, into different presentation. Um, so we talked about some upcoming episodes. We talked about the relationship with the family, higher power, the career, the Past First Entertainment, Crim Law, Peace First, Black Excellence Gallery, the podcast, which I thank you again for listening, Homicide Hotline, and the Dying Words. I told you I keep it nice and light, and then we'll get more heavy and more abundant as we get closer to the major episodes. This is more like a, what do they call those, hors d'oeuvre? How the waiter carries them on a plate, something light. But you're not meant to get full off it. It's meant to hold you over. So I thank you again for your patience and support. My dying words. To be to check out the website, www.omariaa.com, and to stay true to you, to find what you love to do other than sports and video games, because I feel like we settle a lot for those. Other than sports and video games, what do you genuinely love to do that's progressive? Whatever it is, drawing, writing, reading, math, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, performance arts. Maybe you like to do origami. Maybe you like to print, graphic design, music. What do you love to do? And then find a way to monetize it. Do your research. If you need to get an S corp or LLC or a nonprofit, or like filing with the state or 501c3, whatever you need to do your research and then do it. Get your taxes set up so when you do start to make profits, you're not getting burnt because you skipped a step. You just go ahead and take that one to the chin early, and then as you go, it just all fall into place. Get you a website. Social media is great until they take your page down, and then you've lost that traction. So get you a website, get your emailing list. Even if you have 2 people on the emailing list, get your emailing list. Do as much as you can on your own, because you're gonna build skills you don't realize. Like for instance, I was shopping around for websites, and some of the quotes I was getting was disrespectful. $2,000, 500 for one page, 1,200 for a website in like 6 pages and 3 edits and revisions. And I said that is unacceptable. And so what I did was I created it myself. It was slow in the beginning. I didn't really know what I was doing. I just got comfortable with it and tried something out, and then recreated it, and then changed it, and then recreated it again, and then changed it again. And then I slowly started to learn that I got faster. I got more efficient and more effective. And so now, if I need to make a change to the website, instead of emailing somebody and waiting for a month, 2 months, a week, a couple days, I just do it on my own. So now I know how to build websites. Not coding though. Coding is a whole different level. I'm not going to take too much credit, but as far as the blocks and the content and how it needs to look and feel and images and make sure the links correlate to the right page and making sure if I click on this link, then it's highlighted so people can differentiate. Which, I mean, that's what I've done. And so I carry that approach to 99% of the things I do. I do as much on my own as I can so that when I do have that team around me and I do get around people who are after the same mission and same thing, then I bring that much more to the table. And I'm not a liability to where I'm waiting and sitting around waiting for somebody else to do something. I can contribute at the very least the information and experience to help us be better. Because the better you are is the better I am. And the better I am is the better we are. To love yourself unconditionally. People gonna hate no matter what you do. They're gonna be mad at you. Somebody gonna be mad at you no matter what you do. And here's a quote from the In the Meantime mixtape. You give somebody $1 million, they mad they didn't get two. That's the game. So what are you okay with? What are you happy with? What do you want to see happen? Um, and what are you not okay with? What are your standards? If someone says this to you, what are you gonna do? Now, if one of your friends or close associates says it, then what are you gonna do? It's time to look at that kind of stuff and to really stand on something. And I'm learning in society, a lot of people want all the reward, but they don't want the punishment. They want to drive and get up and go right now, but they don't want to pay for the gas. I'm not saying the prices are right or wrong. If you don't want to pay for the gas, don't drive. And so it's time to be intentional. Um, it's just time to be okay with the consequences, acknowledge the reality of the consequences, accept them, and then you got the reward after that instead of vice versa. I only want rewards, no consequences. And so just stand on what you stand on, love yourself unconditionally, and find out what you really want to do and envision yourself in the next 5, 10, 20, 30 years. What will you be doing and why? For what purpose? Even if you come up with one or two ideas, write them down and post them on a wall to where you can see it every day and just continue to do it. And eventually you'll look up and you'll be doing everything you said you would. And you'll love what you do while doing so much more and leading the next generation down a road of generational progression and upliftment. Amari, what else? What else? I just thank you guys for your patience and support as I grow and get better and learn to fill these shoes that I've been ordained with. I'm learning to love myself more consistently, even if I do well or terrible, to continue to love myself and be intentional with that. And I thank you again for believing in you and for believing in us. And with that, we thank you for joining us on Specificity.